Hello and welcome to Pandemic Podcast for Educators. My name's Gawain.
I'm Karam.
And I'm Merike.
This is the third of our conference roundups. We've just finished the second day of the NEU's online conference, and we're going to be talking about all the debates that happened today. We're really pleased to be joined by Lucy Coleman, Nick Potamitis and Sam Makinde, who are all delegates at the conference and are going to be talking about the motions that they were involved in today. So Lucy, Nick, Sam, you're all really welcome. So we kicked off conference today talking about keeping and supporting our leaders in the NEU, an issue which I'm not sure I've seen at conference for a little bit, but which is actually really significant, isn't it? It's about leadership members, those who are working in leadership positions in schools and colleges within the National Education Union, and how we both retain them but support them properly in our union.
I've got to say, I think this is a really important motion, and one that quite a lot of people who aren't in leadership might not realise the importance of as well. It is one of the things that we did get wrong a few times as a union was sometimes in our communication with our leadership as well. There was a few times when we did get a little bit of kickback on some of our communication, and this improves a lot of that. Because really, it's all about having a good working relationship with your head. If we've got a head that's a member of the NEU that has incorporated the NEU policies, then our members are automatically going to more likely to be protected better, aren't they? So I think this is really important, and it really does strengthen the offer that we have for leadership members as well within the union.
No, I'd agree. I mean, we have some really fantastic leadership members. I've spoken to a few over the past few days around the conference who are out campaigning on things like baseline standardized testing, who are running schools according to, the ethical leadership model we'd like to see. And sometimes maybe they feel that the union's communications, the way in which it responds, hasn't really catered for them fully. Maybe that's a report I've had back quite a bit, and this seeks to change it, doesn't it? Put those leaders right at the heart of what we're doing and support them properly. I don't think it means us being any less robust in building our workplace organisation and ensuring that all members have a say over what happens in the workplace. But supporting our leaders is really essential. I mean, you were all there in the debate. What did people think?
I mean, what I think about leadership is that leadership, even if we have NEU, sometimes some local authority might be putting pressures on them, or even their academy might be putting pressures on them, so that sometimes some of them might want to take that sort of line, the line that is being taken by their local authority or their MAT, so that we need to support any head that is there. And I mean, for example, my head is not in NEU, but any meeting that is been to in my local area, he always mentions me, that I've gone beyond what he has experienced with union members before, that I've gone beyond what he was expecting. And that really is good, because I then mentioned him, for example, in my own on the Black Forum, we're inviting him, my head, to come and give a talk there to Black members of the way that I've worked with him, because of the way that he's worked with me. Because anything I take to him, he weighs it out and then says, Sam, I think I will go your way. And he comes my way to do most of the things. So that during the pandemic, I mean, he was surprised, I was surprised that we are working in tandem with one another. So that, to me, we need to train our reps to work together with their heads, because being in the same union might be good, and we will help the two people, that's the rep and the head, but sometimes some heads will go the way that the LA or their maths are dictating to them.
And they almost need that support, don't they, to put the pressure back the other way. And, it's about the kind of union we're building, isn't it? Wall to wall. If you're in the building, you're in the union. That has to be our approach. I think, we want to represent all educators at all levels in the union. So we moved on from that onto a motion on organising in the workplace, building in the workplace, a subject dear to my heart, and I know to many others. This is where our strength is, isn't it? Where we build our workplace groups, where we really and there were a number. Actually, I spoke on one of the amendments there, which was around organising reps conferences to share experience and investing in digital tools for organising that we've used so well during the lockdown. But I think we could do even more with. But then there was an amendment around early years. Again, a section of our membership that maybe doesn't always feel they've been listened to in the past. But recently we've seen some really impressive, innovative organising in early years, haven't we? Lucy, you were proposing that amendment on early years.
Yeah, so this came from a Value Early Years group that I set up, and I'd been listening to members who were talking about the membership categories in the NEU, and also some of them didn't even realise that NEU had early years members outside of schools, and there was like a real frustration. So I wrote the amendment because I thought that the organising in the workplace was the perfect place for it, because actually what we want is to get more members, but we also want to get those members involved like from the beginning, and so that they can see that their voices are heard. And I was at the early years fringe meeting this afternoon, and I said the same thing, get involved, go along to your local meetings and get early years on the agenda, because it's so important that we get it right.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
The only way that we can actually organise across all workplaces is by making sure that everybody in a workplace is in a union. And from one of the things that's cropped up from the early years group that Lucy and I admin on Facebook is membership categories is actually off-putting to a lot of early years staff. So for some silly reason, a lot of early years teachers don't have qualified teacher status because it's purely early years. So unless they've gone down an early years with QTS route, they're not given that same status, and therefore they're not actually paid to teacher pay scales at all. They're getting absolute pittance for the sheer work and hard work that they do. And so having looked at membership categories, they are a teacher, but they can't afford teacher subs really, because it's a higher percentage of the salary. It's not fair to ask them for that, but they're not support staff, they are a teacher. So there's a whole host of niggles there that really need ironing out, and now thankfully we've managed to get that. We just need it now to be put into action.
It's a really
which will be done.
It's a hugely important step, isn't it? Because there's a battle there over pay for early years educators, which, as you say, is so low. But you can't have that battle if people aren't in the union. So sorting out that membership category.
This is the first step in order to actually then go down that journey to then sort out the whole host of wider issues within the early years sector. Our colleagues in the PVI sector just, they're not paid properly at all, and it's so unfair because they all work so hard, and the amount of knowledge and understanding that you need when you work in early years about child pedagogy and about early childhood development and the psychology behind all that, to then not have that recognised in your wage is pretty insulting, to be honest.
And it boils down to a complete undervaluing of the sector as a whole, really, which is another one of our fights that we need to build.
Well, early years, contrary to popular belief, is not glorified babysitting. We actually do educate children.
Just backing up what Lucy was saying there, I mean, to me, I think our union really need to step up with this and really take the challenge with the government, because I mean, it's not just the early years, even some of our support staff are finding it difficult
completely
to pay their dues as union members. And I think that we need to go round into their payments and use the payments to campaign with the government.
Yeah, definitely. It's about that fight. Nick, you've got a lot of early years educators in Cambridgeshire, haven't you?
Yeah, we do. And so two things, I just wanted to sort of flag up the sort of online organising that's been happening around the campaign for maintain nurseries. Some of the kind of innovative stuff that's been happening. With the sort of Twitter storm, sort of day of online action that happened, last month, slightly before that as well. So that's been kind of, because I know your amendment, was about sort of thinking about, the technology and how we can use that in, sort of developing our union strength, and the kind of the activism, within those groups. But I also wanted just to sort of echo what people have been saying about the pedagogy within early years and how relevant that is across all. I teach in a sixth form, and when we started, I remember when I started there, it was the first time we were doing an applied subject. We were going from A levels media to applied media, and we were looking to our early years. We were looking at nurseries, and we were thinking about exploratory play. We were thinking about building those we filled the classroom up with it was slightly with bean bags, because we wanted the space to feel a place where our young people who were 16, 17 could feel comfortable and share with each other in ways that they weren't sort of stuck at a desk. So I think absolutely the more that we can do to learn from and share that excellent practice, the better.
That's fantastic. And I mean, that at a time when there are so many attacks at the moment on early years pedagogy, aren't there? We need to make sure, as Nick said, we're spreading that practice, but also just reinforcing and defending it. I know Lucy and others have been involved in the Birth to Five Matters guidance as well, which I think is really significant, because it's about defending the kind of pedagogy that we have in early years. And I'm really pleased that the union's now committed via that motion to backing and supporting that. And it is right at the heart of what we're talking about in terms of organising in the workplace, because we have to organise in every workplace, from Merike's early years classroom through to Nick's sixth form. We've got to be there in every workplace, haven't we, really building? And of course, that means recognising the issues that face all of our members. And today we had the first of our urgent motions. So this is where we can put items on the agenda for conference that have happened since the deadline for motions and amendments. We had the first urgent item, which was a motion to end harassment, abuse and violence against women. Significant amount of support, and I think in some ways part of a real groundswell. I think throughout this conference we had the Winning for Women Fringe was the first meeting of the conference, even before conference had opened. We had a powerful discussion on maternity rights yesterday, which Daisy Maxwell from Tower Hamlets opened up, and then we went on today to this discussion on ending harassment, abuse and violence against women. Really powerful motion, I thought. Amazing speakers.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It's much needed. It's unfortunate that it's much needed, because in 2021 we are still facing those things as women. Speakers today, I mean, Amy and Sarah alluded to in their speeches stories that other women had spoken about. Heather spoke passionately about her own experiences. Every single woman I know has a story like that. I've got many myself. I'm sure Lucy's got some. Every single woman. I can't remember exactly how old I was when I learned to walk home after a night out with my keys poking between my fingers and thumb like this. I can't remember when it was that I became paranoid about hearing footsteps behind me as I was walking alone. Nobody should be feeling like that. Unfortunately, that is the society in which we currently live. And it's a shame that it's taken something as tragic as the death of Sarah Everard to bring this to the forefront. But I'm pleased it's at the forefront, because we can't go on like this any longer. It needs an entire systemic, cultural, societal shift in order for this to change. But one of the first steps in doing that is bringing it out in motions like this. So I'm thrilled that it passed, and that we had the amendments, which brings in a wider issue about bringing in our male colleagues. And, you know, it can't just be men, a group of women saying, yeah, we're going to fight this. It needs to be everybody. Unfortunately, the statistics show that the largest amount of people who are the perpetrators in such instances are men. So then we need to educate the men, and then you need to educate everybody else. And one of the things that is really, really important with this, it actually links with another motion that we had today, is the new RSE, relationships and sex education curriculum, and talking about what is actually okay, what actually constitutes harassment. And consent is a massive deal, but that is actually part of the RSE curriculum. I mean, even in my nursery classroom, we end up touching on that subject. For example, if another child's sitting and they're just wanting to constantly hug another one, but the child who's being hugged doesn't want that, and they're like, get off, then that actually naturally leads itself to a discussion around consent. Like, if they don't want you to touch them, please don't touch them. You wouldn't like it if they did that to you. And it's building that as a foundation right from early years all the way through. And I think only then will we actually get that societal shift, which will then hopefully put an end to the horrific experiences that every woman I know has gone through.
I think you're right, Merike, and like you said, it was so powerful to listen to women sharing their experiences, and I think what happened with Sarah was just so awful, but it kind of made me wake up, and like you said, Merike, you know, when did it become normal for women to be scared to walk home? And the one thing that really got me was a social media post that said about how women text each other and say, text me when you get home.
Text me when you're home. Yeah.
And I've done that 1,000 times.
I do that. That's just normal.
But when did that become okay?
Just out of interest. So Gawain, Karam, Nick, Sam, do you text your friends after you've been out and say, text me when you get home?
Only my other half asked me to do that. Women I know always ask me.
See, that's it. Yeah. Women ask.
Yeah, and it's kind of become so ingrained. We treat it as if that's normal. Yeah, and it's got to be about changing. There's been some quite powerful stuff as well in the media, hasn't it? That, you know, it can't be. We're constantly expecting women to change their behaviour so they don't become victims of harassment or assault, or
how about the people that are harassing stop their behaviour?
Exactly. Yeah. It's about changing the behaviour of boys and men, and that's that is the challenge in front of us. But to see it right front and centre at our conference, you know, with 76% of our members being women, finally. That coming right through is I just think really, really important. We've got to make sure it goes beyond conference, so that
it needs to go beyond conference. It needs to come right through the education that we deliver, because then, the children that we are teaching now are going to be the adults in the future, aren't they? Yeah. So it will be then their society, and if they're not being taught those things of, you know, how to actually be respectful of one another. Then things aren't going to change.
I think it boils down to respect being a value within the community, because I mean, take our elderly people, the way sometimes we treat them, and even the way sometimes we treat our young people too.
Yep.
To me, I think it's just respect to go with all relationships that really matters.
Yeah. And I
Completely
guess that respect then extends, doesn't it, into challenging oppression, challenging harassment, challenging which you know, I mean, has been a bit of a theme for today, hasn't it? Because we then in the afternoon we took the equalities and social justice section, and immediately after that emergency motion we went on to what was the most highly prioritized motion of this year's conference, the Black Lives Matter motion, which Sam and Nick, you were the ones who motivated it. I mean, again, fantastic to have that front and center of our conference, but you know, shocking in a sense that in this day and age we still need to be reiterating that Black Lives do matter. I mean, I thought you were both amazing in the speeches that you gave. It's really powerful.
Thank you. Nick, you can go first, then I will come. Your speech was better than mine.
No, you set them up for me. It was a pleasure and a privilege to follow on from you. You know what you're saying just then about you know, violence against women and girls. It's you know, it's not a women's problem. It's a problem. It's a men's problem. Yeah, it's about toxic masculinity, and racism and anti-blackness isn't a black people's problem, right? It's white. It's a problem of whiteness, and actually, you know, understanding our complicity, you know, within those kinds of systems, you know, toxic masculinity, of you know, of coloniality, of you know, you know, of racism and that we were talking about, I think, and how those things kind of connect up are really important. And I think, you know, that's what I kind of took from the sort of subject of the speech, I guess, today, which was the sort of, you know, the fantastic example of the students in Pimlico. You know, was actually understanding that this isn't just about, you know, what's a better example of intersectionality than you've got black and brown young women being told by you know, a white school leadership that their you know, that their headscarves are too colourful, right? You know, that actually, you know, this is about colonizing the body, right? You know, this is what, when we talk about decolonizing the curriculum, we're not talking about decolonizing the curriculum. Yeah, it's great to put black you know, black faces and black history in the you know, in the stuff that we teach, but actually it's about the systems, and that means you know, seeing how all of those things connect up. And you know, so that yeah, it was a protest about a racist dress code, but it's not about that, isn't it? You know, it's about the way in which you know, and racist abuse in the school wasn't being dealt with. You know, it's about the ways in which you know, the imposition of what really sort of struck me was when I would have lost my shit. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know. If you put a flag up, right, when I was at school, I would have literally lost my shit, right? And I would have been calling this out as absolute racism. Those students, they challenged it, and they said it was unnecessarily antagonistic, right? Just the maturity of that, you know, level of understanding, you know, of that, you know, challenging it, I think is, you know, is absolutely inspiring, as is, as I said, the sort of you know, the sort of joined up thinking, being that sort of systems, being able to see the connections of all those oppressions happening within that, the sort of hothouse of that school, I think is really was really inspiring anyway, and seeing the rebellion against that. And the other thing that I just wanted to say, which I think was so important about this this motion, is it's about joining the dots, about connecting us up. You know, it's about connecting student struggle with teachers. It's about connecting what we as you know, the school communities, and how our school communities feel with the wider community. And that's exactly the same thing with the early years campaigns. You know, when we win, when we bring the parents and the families with us. And that's the I guess that that's the struggle, isn't it? That's the challenge, and I think that's what
which is really where I was coming in from. That is majority of our rich people and majority of our leaders. How many of them really suffer some of the things that we go through? I mean, some of them do not know the price of bread. Yeah. Okay, and because they are not aware of really what is going on, they think that people are putting it up or are sort of making it up as they go along. And it's not making up, because if you walk in the middle of a street and somebody spat at you, not once, not twice, that's me.
Yeah.
Of people driving past me and spitting on me. And yet somebody is saying that I'm just dreaming it. I'm not dreaming it. It's not something that I dreamt about. It's something that is real. Or a student went past you and said, you smell. I mean, where is that coming from? That's the society that we are living in.
Yeah.
And it's not that we are telling a story. We are not making it up. This is real life. So that, pardon, sorry.
So I'd say that links so well to what Amy was saying on the emergency motion earlier. People need to actually believe when other fellow members of the human race come forward and say that something has happened to them. We need to believe each other in order to be able to challenge these things. These things shouldn't be happening.
People's experiences of oppression, isn't it? It's actually believing them.
Yeah.
Really, sorry, Sam, go on.
But also we need to bring it into our union.
Yeah.
Because there was an association before we became districts and things. And that association, I put my name forward to become an executive. What did I hear? It's not your time yet. I mean, and that's not in the rules of any NUT then. It's not your time. We'll have a woman that is going to go. But a woman has been there before, and before that, and before that.
So it's breaking down some of those barriers to give people access to be able to put themselves forward and not be discouraged, not be put off. On that topic, really, really pleased to be joined by Sarah Kilpatrick, who, Sarah, you seconded, I think, the emergency motion that we took today on, we were talking about it earlier on ending harassment, abuse, violence against women, but you also spoke at the fringe meeting that opened the whole conference right at the beginning about breaking down some of those barriers and how we get involved in the union.
I did, thank you, and it's really nice to be invited, so thanks very much, and sorry I couldn't join you earlier. Yeah, so the work that I do on the Women's Organising Forum is all about trying to build women's involvement in the union. And what we found is that when women get involved in the union, they're really keen, they really, they're enthusiastic, they see that it's a space for them, but they find it impossible to remain active. And we lose activists really quickly, and particularly women activists drop off very quickly. Childcare is a huge issue. Caring for elderly relatives tends to fall on women. So yeah, we lose a lot of really good sisters.
Yeah, a lot of those barriers that are put in the way, I guess, in similar ways to Sam talking about barriers there. What are some of the things we can do to break these down? I mean, anyone who's got suggestions?
Organise. Quite simply, you need to get together and grassroots organise. Sarah can explain this much better than I can. And I mean, she's one of the founding members of our Northern organising group for our women members. Anyway, go on, Tess, tell them.
I have a reputation in the Northern region for getting annoyed about things, and
Yeah, that led to a rather nickname at one point from certain people.
Well, yeah, so this is something that bothers me. The nickname I earned for myself after speaking, essentially just giving an opinion on something, which
because how dare a woman do that?
Well, right, yeah. So I ventured an opinion on a topic that was not what everybody was expecting me to say, and earned myself the nickname Ranty. And I just thought, I mean, you go along with these things, don't you? You sort of go, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I was really angry about that thing that I spoke about calmly. But hey, I'm clearly angry because a woman expressed an opinion. And the nickname stuck for a while. And eventually I had to say, well, actually, do you know what? If I was a bloke, you wouldn't have called me that. And I think with Merike's support, that killed it dead pretty quickly. But yeah, we formed an alliance, didn't we, Merike? We had a bit of a sort of coup. I can't really call it a coup because we were supported in doing it, honestly.
We were supported in doing it. It was necessary.
But as soon as you do challenge the structures, I think people they very quickly see that actually there are barriers in place. And they don't want to hold people back. People don't invent these structures within the NEU to hold people back. It's done with normally good intentions and by mistake. And as soon as you challenge it, you tend to find that you're supported. Now, I can't say that is always the case, and I can only speak from my own experience. So, forgive me, I've not been in the conversation until right at the very end here. But yeah,
but it has to be challenged, and I think that fits with what Sam was saying about, when you get involved in a union, those barriers are put there, aren't they? And if you don't challenge them, whether that's for our black members, for our women members,
that's it. I think my favourite.
Sorry.
No, go on, Sam.
I think as a union, we need to look at those barriers.
Yeah.
Because if the barrier is happening just 1 year, is good. But if it's happening the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time, then something is wrong. And if people that are at the top are not looking at it, then there is something that is really fundamentally wrong. And that's where the institution then comes in, that it then becomes an institutional issue.
Yeah. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think it boils down to really listening to people's voices, no matter what challenges they're facing, whether that is because they're a woman, or if it's because of the colour of their skin, or if it's because of the sector that they work in, that the union is open to listening to people's lived experiences and then taking that on board. And as Sam said, actually doing something about it, not just talking about it, but making changes.
It's like that adage, isn't it? Don't mourn, organise.
And also that organizing might come from learning from other cultures.
Yeah.
Because like in so many countries in Africa, we have what they call ujamaa. Ujamaa means you support one another, you build one another up. The person on the ground is not suffering more than the person at the top. Because they were all building into it. But some people think that we know it and we know the best within British culture. And to me, we need to start to challenge that because you are in power doesn't mean that you know the best.
No, being empowered is about listening and about we've got to organise in that way, haven't we? Support each other, build each other up. That's it's how a union should operate. We're pretty much at time now, but I mean it has been an incredible day, hasn't it? Putting forward all of those policies. Now the question is translating them into practice. So I just want to go around one brief comment from each of you. What's the most important thing we can do to translate some of this into practice? We've got good policy coming out of this conference. What are we going to do to make it real? I'm going to go to Karam first because you haven't spoken for a while. Karam, what should we be doing?
Well, I think when we're looking at a lot of these problems of inequality, misogyny, racism, one of the solutions that's coming back at the moment from a lot of people on ground roots is PSHE, is RSE. We really need to challenge how the government have been looking to use these and the media. So, for instance, something like RSE, we had the protests outside the primary school a couple of years ago, and a lot of that was driven by misrepresentation of what was actually going to be done in the media. The media spanned stories about RSE, which wasn't true. And then if we look at Westminster, the latest redo on like RSE guidance was all culture war stuff, wasn't it? It was anti-capitalism. It was talking about anti-Black Lives Matters. Is it? What's this got to do with just treating people with respect and understanding relationships? Like, we got to try and pull away this kind of narrative and actually focus on what actually matters to our children.
Brilliant. Yeah. Sam, what do you think? What can we do to build from here?
To invite people to walk in my shoes just for a day without any sort of sieving out what is good and what is bad from that person. And I think that by doing that, people will start to really know where the shoe is paining me as an individual or hurting me as an individual.
Yeah, so because to try and understand. Yeah.
Yes, because they've been in my shoes.
Merike.
Listen to one another. Believe what each other actually says. And if you see something that shouldn't be happening, challenge it. We can't just pass all of these fantastic motions today and say that we're going to do these things and then not actually act upon them. So act upon them.
Act upon them. Sarah?
I think, you know, we're a lay-led organisation. You've got to engage the grassroots. And unless you build activism within districts, within each workplace, we get nowhere with this. So it's great. You know, I'm really, really proud of what we've done today in conference. But until that's communicated to our activists, until that's, you know, being worked on in regions, then we won't achieve anything. So it's about getting that message out there and about building the grassroots.
Nick?
I think the union needs to take the 350 grand that gets spent on honoraria and use it to provide childcare, so that you know, the women activists that we're losing because, you know, can actually get involved. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. It's better ways of spending that money, right? And we can change you know, attitudes and the rest of it. But these are structural barriers, and you get rid of them by throwing money at it. And that's what I think we should do.
Lucy?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone has said. And I think it is about organising and making sure that members in the workplace understand the messages that are coming out of conference. And also, I mean, I'll always be waving the early years flag, but if we can make our curriculum like the early years curriculum, where children are taught to respect each other and to, you know, really build on those social skills and those communication skills, then actually that would have a ripple effect throughout the education.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with all of that. It's about what we've done today is great. What we're doing at this conference is great, but this is a small section of the membership. Until that goes back out to 450,000 members across the country, mobilizes them, organizes them to win, that's when it becomes a reality, isn't it? That's when we really bring people together for the kind of change that we want to see in our education system and our society. Sam, final word.
Before we finish, please, can I just talk about what is behind me?
Yes.
We meet once a month, and we about 50 of us, we are trying to, we've already started it, sort of developing materials that will be going to schools. And in June, we are going to have a big event to invite the whole membership to that. But we want more white people, because there is no point doing it just for the Black people. It will be good for white people to be involved. Thank you. Sorry, I was cooking, by the way. That's why I was going.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. Thank you, Merike and Karam, as well, for co-hosting and for the work that goes into this. And yeah, thank you, everyone who's been listening. Please do subscribe for future episodes. And
Yes,
yeah, just great to be part of this conference. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take
Bye.
care.